wipe, get this camera situated. All right, here we are live. Welcome to the Proud Masculine, live on the drive. An opportunity to jump on and do a quick one to got a little bit of a commute driving. So I got about 20 minutes. So we'll just run one real quick. Obviously I haven't been going on regularly. We know. And as I've explained in the last live, going through some transitions and changes to schedules where I got to completely restructure how I do my lives to be consistent. But that's okay. That's a challenge, and we accept the challenges head on, adapt and overcome, right? But I get the rare opportunity to come on and just make an appearance for a minute, which is good. So, something that has been coming up a lot lately, and I've just gotten off the phone, and this is kind of how I do the lives. I don't have anything scripted. I basically go by feel, by what I'm dealing with either a client, a peer, or something that seems to be present with other men, challenges and certain other topics that come along. Obviously, the atmosphere is all political right now, but I don't really want to get into that here. That's not what this channel is about, but on a live, we're open to discuss. But that's not what this is about, and that's not what the theme is about. What it is about is lately, and I've encountered this the last 2 weeks, probably a dozen times, up until this last conversation that I just had. What's up, Chicago? How you doing, sweetie? Let's see if I can do something about this sun in my eyes. Is your quality of relationships and how it affects a man's life. And what are the things that men desire that define quality relationship? And what I find most often lacking at these men, and this has been the theme of the conversations, and look, I didn't ask for this. This is me being approached somewhat randomly, but a lot of the people I know that I see regularly that I would consider my peers, even loosely acquainted like jiu-jitsu and on jobs here and there, people know what I do. They know I have a brand. They know Proudmasculine. They know about the relationship and dating, coaching and all. So oftentimes I get presented with questions from people that mid-30s old the other day, actually a friend of my son, asking me about advice in their relationships. And if there's one thing I've noticed, and I've experienced this in my own life, but a common theme among my clients and the people that I interact with day to day, the people who tap me for guidance, is the quality of their relationships and how that directly correlates to quality of life and the impact it can have in a major way, either way, a positive or a negative impact. Obviously, the overall, the majority outcome you want from your relationship is quality of life is positive, right? And what I have to impress on these guys is that there are certain expectations that it's okay to have, but there's also expectations of yourself that you need to know how to uphold in a relationship. And so, thank you, mixed martial artist, Miss Martial Artist. How have you been, by the way? I actually get this shirt from a supplement store that I get my creatine and stuff at. If you buy $50 of stuff, you get a free shirt. NutriShop. There you go. There's a sponsor. NutriShop out here in Louisiana. um, is so back to the topic, the quality of life and how it affects how your relationship affects your quality of life. And guys, here's something that I impressed on this young man, 19, is and a son. I have a 22-year-old son that, obviously he has a open door policy with me in terms of seeking guidance. And this is, I can't impress on young men and married men, any man who's looking to date and get into a relationship and start a family, is the importance and the impact that the woman in your life will have on your life. Oh, fucking A, awesome. Yeah, I think they got the best stuff, the best prices. The guy who owns a shop locally here is a really cool dude too, so I've been shopping with him for years. This is some kind of Louisiana theme. It's got a crawfish on it. Yeah. But they do seasonal, like Mardi Gras, football season, stuff like that. But yeah, so the importance of the woman in your life and how that'll impact you short term and long term. If you're like me, you're a busy man, a business owner, entrepreneur, or even if you have a 9 to 5, if you're a person who's committed to excelling and being successful in life, the woman in your life is going to have a major impact on how that goes from here on out. And especially if you're looking to start a family, and this woman's going to be the mother of your children. See, what you have to understand is, once you enter that, and people say, oh, well, you got 18 years. No, you have a lifetime to be involved with this woman, and she will have an effect and an impact on you for a lifetime. It doesn't stop at 18. You might have to stop paying child support at 18. Believe me, look, I know a guy who's older than I am. He's in his 60s. He's like a spiritual mentor for me. And him and I sat down yesterday. He's been divorced for 17 years. All his children are grown and out of the house. And his ex-wife still has an impact in his life because you have children together. That never goes away. That's a lifelong bond and a lifelong commitment that you're going to have, that this person will be involved with in your life. And unfortunately, him and his ex-wife do not get along in any way, shape, or form. And even though they've been apart for 17 years, she still has a major impact on his quality of life day to day because he talks to me about these things. And so especially you young guys or guys getting back out into the dating market, if you're divorced or you're coming out of a relationship, there are characteristics and traits that you can look for ahead of time to kind of screen the women you're dating. Everybody says, well, I'm not looking for a relationship. You hear people say that, I'm fresh out, I'm not looking for a relationship. Well, guess what? Anybody dating, you are opening the door for a possibility of a relationship. So we can just throw that concept out of the window, like I'm dating for fun or I'm just exploring. That's anybody dating, you're dating to form a connection long term, no matter what. Because every person you date and every opportunity you take to go on dates and get to know somebody, you're opening the door for a potential for a relationship to happen. And it's a lot of things that get overlooked. And I find the biggest thing in the beginning is the men who overlook the small things and the red flags in the beginning because it's new. That is biological, that you have a honeymoon phase. You have all these feel-good hormones and this dopamine dump. in the beginning when everything's fresh and the sex is frequent, there's really nothing you can do to each other that you don't like. You like hearing from them all the time. You like seeing them. You like spending every waking moment with them. Everything they say is funny. Everything you say is funny. But that wears off. And there's things in the beginning. Everybody who goes through a bad experience in a relationship can look back in the beginning during that phase and say that they overlooked the red flags in the beginning. A, because they were blinded by the feel goods. B, because they didn't want to be alone. And they excused it and lied to themselves and said, oh, this will get better as we go. As we get further along, she'll get to know me better. She'll start seeing I'll enforce these things as we go along, and it'll change. And just ignore it, basically. For men, let's just be honest, it's because of the sex, the frequent sex. So they're not going to jeopardize, a potential confrontation, because most men don't know how to handle confrontation and will not say anything for the sake of not rocking the boat or stirring up the waters, And certain bad behaviors like certain forms and levels of disrespect. It could be mild disrespect. Something as simple as saying, I'll call you back and not returning a call. And most people's going to look at that and say, I don't know if I really want to call that out. I don't want to seem controlling and needy, but that's not needy. That's respect. That's a common courtesy. And these are all things that people don't, like men, don't say anything in the beginning to not jeopardize the relationship, right? To push the girl away. Because if you call her out on some bullshit and she's contesting you, and she'll start with oh, you being controlling, or why are you making a big deal out of this and all. Most guys will cower and back down from that. Oh, I guess you're right. And the fact is, that's one of the little red flags that most people overlook. It needs to be checked and addressed in the beginning as a firm boundary. Is like, hey, I'm busy. If I'm going to take my time to call you and we agree that you're going to call me back, that's common courtesy. That's just being thoughtful on the most basic level that you return my call because you said you would. And that's not something to be overlooked. And it's not a big deal if you bring it up and check it. And it's important that you do, because if you check something like that at the beginning, even if it's a small thing, if you bring that out into the open and she has a problem with that, then that tells you a lot about what your future is going to look like. It has a lot of opportunities in the beginning, these little markers, these little opportunities that you get to handle something simple that will reveal a lot to you of how it's going to look in the long term. So there's a few simple things that you can look at in the beginning and see to kind of test the durability of the relationship and her character. And one is courtesy. And that's why I led with that, so I could say that first. For courtesy, is she courteous? Is she respectful of your time? If you're having a dinner reservation, is she ready when you go pick her up? Does she stick by her word? If she says she's coming over, she's running a little late. Does she call you and say, hey, I'm running a little late? Or does she just show up whenever she feels like it and say, well, why are you making such a big deal of it? The little simple things, pay attention to that. That reveals a lot. Because she has this entitled personality and she's going to make something that simple into a complex issue. And it tells you a lot what you're looking at long term when it comes to dealing with bigger, more complex issues. It's not going to get better. Her political beliefs. I think a lot of guys overlook this too, for the sake of having a regular sex, the steady sex, and having somebody in their lives. Listen, this is a big thing, especially in today's climate, where if you're not politically aligned, or she doesn't move into your frame as far as political beliefs, that is not going to work out in the long term. It just won't. Because that your political beliefs go deeper into life, about raising kids, uh, money, gender roles, like all these things. Politics have a profound effect on that. Like a conservative man, it'll never work if you're dating a progressive woman, liberal woman. It'll never work out. You'll never see eye to eye, and it'll be a constant fight, a constant struggle. That's no way to live, and it will not get better. Now, if you meet and she's single and she's been taken in by the bullshit and leans left, but meets you and looks up to you and starts moving your way, becomes more conservative and adopts a conservative, godlike value system, then yes, that's doable. But so that's another important thing. Does she take care of herself? You can see that from the beginning. Is she health conscious? Is she does she watch what she eats? Does she work out? Does she take care of herself? Does she put time in to, because that's a huge look into the way you take care of yourself and maintain your body and your health is a sure sign of discipline. Health conscious, if she's body conscious, and she does take those time, that means that she has enough self-respect and self-care that she can in turn extend that to you, and in the long run to your family. If she lays around, if she eats junk, the day it says I have to care about myself and I'm not going to care about you, your fitness in check and your long-term goals with that, like sustaining and maintaining a long-term quality of life. Does she listen to you? So, and this is a big one that guys always shy away from because they get the old shame trap, or they get hit. Like if she's dressed provocatively, and you're like, hey, I don't like the way you dress outside. Like that's too revealing. Like tits showing and this provocative clothing and drawing attention to herself. And you mentioned you don't like that and she has a problem with that. Well, dude, that's a problem. If she doesn't respect what you say and want to obey that, that tells you that she's not going to listen or doesn't respect you, and she won't. And that'll never get better long term. And that'll just get worse and worse over time. If she listens and she respects your position in her life and values your opinion, she'll make that adjustment. She won't be revealing herself and putting herself on advertisement for other men to enjoy and see. Because at the end of the day, no man wants, your woman, your relationship is a sacred ground. It's a sacred thing. I don't want other men being able to feast their eyes, physically, and because we're men, we know what we think when we see that kind of stuff. Like you get some other men that get to have a visual feast of your girl's titties and looking at her in tight clothes where you can see the outline of all her parts and stuff. No man wants that. That's like sharing your woman with society. Everybody gets a peek on something that it's a sacred place that ultimately belongs to you and her. So it's just little things like that. It's important. It seems simple in the beginning, and most times the guys will back down from the do you think women should be allowed to vote? That's a really good topic, and we're almost done here. I'm not going to have time to answer that. Short answer, no, but it depends, and I'll have to explain that. But, and let me tell you this quick trap that men fall into with confronting the girls with inappropriate behavior or inappropriate ideas or different ideas of what that is, following his lead, is that more oftentimes than not, men fall for the, like if you tell her, look, I don't want you going out on girls' nights. There's no reason for you to be in a club at midnight dressed like a hoe with all your single friends when we're in a relationship. There's no reason for that. And if she doesn't respect that, it says a lot about where she stands and as how she respects and values you in her life. And that tells you off the bat. And what they'll usually use is the, oh, you're controlling or you're insecure. You know, the man shaming. It's a very common manipulative tactic that women use to get their way with the men in their lives. And it's pure manipulation. But a lot of guys fall for it for the sake of having regular sex and having a steady companion in their lives. A lot of men fall for it every day. But that's just a short one. We'll get into it another time. If you have any ideas, just leave them in the comments. Thank you, everybody, for coming in. If you have not yet, hit that like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. We'll be back on soon. I'll keep you posted, mixed martial artists. Stay tuned. Make sure you hit that notification bell. You'll see. All right, got to jump out. Ending it here. See y'all on the next one.